From Bong Joon-ho's indelible creature feature The Host to the found-footage masterpiece Gonjiam, Haunted Asylum, here are some quality Korean horror movies you need to see. Zombies had their heyday in the 2000s and early 2010s, but eventually oversaturated the world of horror to the point where they became more laughable than scary.
Oh my god. She's so drunk.
Nonetheless, we here at Slash Film believe the 2016 film Train to Busan gave zombies the kick they needed and made the monsters scary again. The movie follows a workaholic father who, despite his best efforts, has a strained relationship with his young daughter. In an attempt to fix things, he takes her on a trip to Busan. But this standard ride quickly turns deadly as an infected person stumbles on board and begins spreading the zombie virus throughout the train. Passengers are turned at an alarming rate, and survivors desperately try to block off cars to protect themselves. But with such limited space, survival becomes increasingly more difficult as they approach Busan. The claustrophobia of the train cars make Train to Busan unique. These characters aren't wandering a sprawling city ravaged by the undead. Instead, Train to Busan is a much more focused film that takes the terror of a pandemic and focuses it in one place. The Wailing is Korea's take on religious horror films focused on Christianity and the battle between God and the devil.
겁나 징상스러운 놈이구만.
By contrast, the 2016 film is a religious epic about Korean mysticism and ritualistic practices that include an elaborate yet futile exorcism. In a small rural town, a strange disease is infecting residents, making them go mad and commit violent crimes. The string of murders are linked to the arrival of a Japanese man who lives on the outskirts of town. As the body count rises and his daughter becomes infected, a police officer begins digging into the truth behind the disease. He's desperate for a solution, and his family eventually turns to a shaman for answers. But this situation is much more complicated than an exorcism can deal with. The Wailing is a story full of ghosts, zombies, and demons that, despite a 156-minute runtime, never gets boring. It's not only about religious fear, but also about the fear of the outsider. Korea was once under Japan's colonial power and experienced a series of atrocities at the hands of the Japanese. This, plus actions taken by Japan during World War II, bred animosity between the two countries. This deep rift is reflected in The Wailing through the Japanese man's character, as his invasion of a small Korean village comes with the historical weight of decades of anger. Bong Joon-ho's environmental creature feature The Host does what Bong does best: fuse great horror with an emotional core and a larger social message. An American scientist orders the dumping of formaldehyde into the Han River in Korea, damaging the local ecosystem and mutating the wildlife.
저기 훔치다. 근데 꼬리가 좀 찌릿해.
One day, a mutant amphibious creature emerges from the river and wreaks havoc on the riverfront. The heart of the story centers on a local merchant and lowlife who runs a snack stand with his daughter and father. They're separated during the chaos, and his daughter becomes trapped in the sewers with the monster. Subsequently, the family bands together, despite their dysfunctional dynamic, to save her from a terrible fate. Bong based The Host on an actual chemical spill from 2000, when the US military disposed of formaldehyde by dumping it in the river.
If I pour them in the drain, they run into the Han River.
That's right. Let's just dump them in the Han River.
This event not only damaged the Han River and its wildlife, but also encouraged anti-American sentiment in the country. Gonjiam Haunted Asylum is easily one of the best and scariest found footage films to be released in the last 10 years. It follows the creators of a paranormal YouTube channel who have announced that they and a group of 6 random people are venturing into the abandoned Gonjiam Asylum to try and capture a ghost on camera. They want to reach 1 million viewers on their live stream, and they'll do just about anything to get it. What makes Gonjiam so effective is how it subverts the audience's expectations. Yes, as a found footage movie, it's mostly shot from a first-person point of view, but the camera is not in the hands of only one person. Instead, by giving each character a camera, the film is able to focus on creating more horrific set pieces and adding narrative depth. Gonjiam effectively mixes sound design, found footage tropes, and real urban legends to create a film that is truly scary. If you aren't convinced about the effectiveness of found footage as a way to tell horror stories, Gonjiam Haunted Asylum may just be the film to change your mind. Director Lee Min-jae's feature film debut is an impressive one. 2019's The Odd Family, Zombie on Sale, has a comedic tone similar to the one in One Cut of the Dead, but the film approaches the genre through a very different lens. When a pharmaceutical company tests out a new diabetes medication, they unwittingly create a zombie virus that is not your typical run-of-the-mill apocalypse starter. The movie follows a patriarch who wants to pull his family out of the lower middle class, but a spiraling economy keeps him scrounging for scraps. His wife is a stern figure, constantly nagging him about finances. His 2 sons and his daughter round out his eccentric, possibly psychopathic clan. Early on in the movie, a homeless man in a bathroom gets bitten and turns into a full-fledged zombie. When the patriarch stumbles across this man soon after and gets a chunk of flesh torn from his body, he experiences a much different reaction. Instead of turning into a flesh eater, he transforms into a younger version of himself. This sparks a new entrepreneurial idea: convince people to pay to be bitten. Zombie on Sale pulses with a tremendous amount of heart while following an unlikely love story between the patriarch's daughter and the zombie. It's fresh, wild, and an utter delight. In the 2019 film Warning, Do Not Play, an urban legend circulates about a movie filmed by a ghost. At the same time, up-and-coming filmmaker Park Mi-jung struggles to find inspiration for her next project. She hears from a good friend that mayhem erupted at the movie's premiere, leading to countless deaths, including one by heart attack. Problem solved, right? However, as she searches for answers, everyone she comes across warns her about the dangers of probing any further. And yet, Park posts an anonymous message online asking anyone with information about the movie or where it was filmed to reach out to her. The film's director responds, but his disheveled appearance and strange behavior only make her more curious. Incorporating found footage elements, Warning, Do Not Play is made of pure nightmare fuel.
죽음보다 끔찍한 게 뭔 줄 알아? 살아있는 게 공포인가? 세상에서 제일 무서운 공포 영화란 거.
All along the way, the movie messes with your expectations. And in the end, you'll come to realize that you experienced a fresh, enthralling take on what could have easily been just another ghost story. Director Kim Ji-woo delivers a ghost story that's equal parts devastating and terrifying with his 2003 film A Tale of Two Sisters. Sumi is a teenage girl who was recently released from a mental institution and has returned home to the countryside with her father, younger sister, and stepmother. As she tries to settle in an uncomfortable routine with her stepmother, Sumi starts to experience strange things happening around their home. A ghost girl appears under the sink. Sumi is plagued with nightmares of her dead mother, and she suspects her stepmother is abusing her younger sister. Make no mistake, A Tale of Two Sisters is not your typical ghost story, and Kim has a twist or two up his sleeve. It's the quintessential Korean horror film, full of jump scares and tragedy at the same time. A Tale of Two Sisters doesn't just want to be scary. It wants to worm its way into viewers' heads and truly make them feel what Sumi feels. A Tale of Two Sisters is more than just a horror movie. It's a horror experience. Park Chan-wook's 2009 film Thirst is a touching, sexy, and gory vampire tale that provides a fresh perspective on the well-worn subgenre. The movie follows a priest who is secretly in love with a married woman and is thus doubting his faith. In an attempt to prove his devotion to God, the priest volunteers to be a test subject for a vaccine against a deadly virus. But the experiment goes wrong and he turns into a vampire. Quite the nightmare scenario for anyone who signs up for medical studies as a side hustle, right? The priest tries to avoid his newfound love for human blood, but ultimately cannot resist his hunger. Song Gong-ho, who wowed the world with his performance in Parasite, absolutely steals the show as a vampire full of ennui about his new state of being. While he mopes and ponders mortality, the priest is placed in direct contrast with a sexual and free married woman who wants to exercise power over those who doubt her. It's a domestic drama full of bloodthirsty creatures who are just trying to survive. If you're looking for some classic Korean brutality, look no further than Park Chan-wook's 2003 revenge thriller Oldboy. While this movie isn't really a horror movie in any way, it nonetheless contains enough horrific sequences to earn a place on this list. The movie follows a man who has been imprisoned in the same room for 15 years. He has no idea who captured him or why. Then, one day, he is spontaneously released, giving him a chance to search for those who ruined his life so that he can enact his revenge. Oldboy has it all: a live octopus being eaten with disgusting fervor, the iconic hammer in a hallway fight, shocking revelations, and a tragic ending that feels like a punch in the stomach. This is a film full of twists, turns, conspiracies, and lies. Just when you think you know where the film is heading, Park subverts your expectations. Oldboy is not an easy watch, but if you can stomach it, it's worth it. Park is an incredibly talented filmmaker and perfectly captures the nuance and complexity of revenge, a theme he also explores in the rest of his Vengeance trilogy, which also includes sympathy for Mr. Vengeance and Lady Vengeance. Importantly, we don't recommend Spike Lee's remake with Josh Brolin. In our humble opinion, it waters down what makes Oldboy such a visceral experience and misses Park's core message about the destructive power of revenge.